I'm going to say one word that will likely bring back a ton of connections and memories for you. That word, bicycle. Maybe it was the feeling of seeing a bike sitting under the tree when you came down the stairs on Christmas morning, or maybe it's the memory of the person who held the back of your seat as they taught you how to ride. Or maybe it was the elation of that one time you actually made that jump, or that time that you missed it. For me, it was my older brother helping me fix up his old bike so it felt new. It's also the scar I still have on my knee from riding to town with my uncle, falling down on some gravel and having him use one of his sweaty socks to help stop the bleeding. Thanks, Uncle Rob. It was also the bike rides we've taken on Florida vacations as a family, pedaling from beach town to beach town with our kids. So what is it about a bicycle that is so universal? What is it about a bike that brings people together? Stick around and find out.
Welcome to the More Than Enough podcast, where we invite some of our friends to help you and some of your friends work together to provide more than enough, filling the biggest gaps for children and families before, during, and beyond foster care where you live. Here's your host, Jason Weber.
Hey, welcome to the More Than Enough podcast. Exciting bonus episode today from the CAFO Virtual Summit back in 2020. I got the chance to sit down with John Buultjens. John was previously known for his career riding and designing BMX bikes, but the release of the movie The Ride has opened a window into his childhood and his incredible story of survival, family, and healing. And so that's our episode today, is getting the chance to hear that conversation with John Buultjens. I am so excited to be here with John Buultjens, BMX rider, and we consider it a privilege to have you here. Thanks so much for being with us, John.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having us.
So, John, I'd like to start by asking you, can you talk a little bit about, and I know you've written about this, your earliest childhood memory?
Yeah, it takes me back. I was 3 years old, and my dad came home from work. He sat on his little sofa, and he was drunk as usual. And I hugged him from behind, just to hug him because I was excited that he came home. And he grabbed my shoulders, threw me across his head into the open fire. It was a metal grated fire. There was no guard on it. So my foot actually got stuck in between the two bars, and it melted my foot, my sock, and my slipper all melted, and the skin and flesh and just pus and water were coming off. That's my first childhood memory. I was 3 years old, and that was in Glasgow, Scotland.
And you had a brother as well, correct?
Yes, yeah. Have an older brother as well, and actually two older sisters. But younger sister, older sister. But yeah, my brother actually got it worse than I did.
And so, was that an exceptional or unusual occurrence, that kind of an incident in your home, or was it sort of normal at your house?
It was a regular occurrence. I mean, my dad was always drunk. He was always beating us up. My mum actually took the worst out of the lot, being a mother, I think. They always protect the children. So my mum was actually the one that was taking all the beatings. My mum was cooking chips in the frying pan, French fries, and he came home and dinner wasn't on the table, and he picked up the frying pan, poured the boiling fat across her face, snapped her arm, and she was 8.5 months pregnant with my younger sister. I mean, that was just the regular occurrence of what happened in our home. At 24th of December 1979, my dad was smashing my mum in the bed, just punching her face in. And I was 7 years old, and I ran in with a kitchen knife to kill him. He managed to knock me out before I even got the knife in. And that was midnight on the 23rd. So 24th, it was Christmas Eve, and we had half day at school and social services, and the police came and took me away. They heard what happened, and my mum actually reported me for what I'd done. And you can imagine I hated her for that. but she saved my life. I understand that now.
And you went to live where at that point?
So we drove about. My social worker actually, we left the school, we drove about, we went to their offices. They're just trying to find somewhere to put me. I mean, it's Christmas Eve, so actually went into a place called Glen Rosa, and it was just full of badass little kids. I mean, we were all from 5 years old even to pretty much 14, 15 years old. We're a bunch of kids that were just little rebels that, I mean, were vermin. That's the way we were treated. That's the way we believed we were. So I was put into this place with, it was probably about 80 kids in there. And I was in a dormitory, or a cell, you call it. And there was actually 4 of us in there. But yeah, I was in there for 3 years.
So you went into this facility at age 7, and then you were there for 3 years until age 10. And one of the things, and we're going to talk a lot more about all of the things that you've gone through and ways that you've come out of that experience. But one of the reasons we're talking to you today is because there's a movie that's been made about your life called The Ride. We're about to watch a clip from that movie that's based on your life. Now, I'll note it's inspired by a true story, right? So there are some differences.
There's a couple of changes, yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about a couple of those? A couple of the differences?
I mean, like the scene you're just about to watch is when Marianne and Eldridge, my new foster parents, come to take me away, give me a home. And I was brought up as a little Nazi racist. I mean, I hated anyone that wasn't white. And my mum walks in and she's Scottish white, and my dad walks in and he's black. And obviously you can imagine, I mean, I just had this fear in me that I'm not going to live with these people. But I was told that this is the only chance I had. I mean, I was going to be dead before I'm 16. So in real life, I'm 10 years old. In the movie, I'm actually 16 years old. And the main reason is because of the BMX. They wanted to basically get me into the BMX quicker. Instead of it being 8 years from 10 to sort of 18, it's pretty much 8 months. So they sped up that a little bit in the film. But it comes across, the story is still there. It's exactly the same as how it happened. It's just a small difference in age, as well as it made in America, because instead of made in Scotland, it would have been more of a cult film, like Trainspotting, if anyone's seen that. But being in America, it's a global audience. I mean, so I listened to the professionals on the pros and cons of making it in Scotland, making it in California. The weather in Scotland, it rains 8 days out of 7. So in California, I mean, whilst we're filming, I think we had 3 days of rain the whole time. Over 6 weeks of the main filming, we had about 3 days. And we managed to change it that we could film those scenes in the juvenile detention center or in the house or wherever. So, yeah, you can get away with that in California. You can't get away with that in Scotland.
So what happened in that room when your parents came in to talk to you, and they were signing up to be foster parents for you at that point? The age is different, but what happened in that room is very much like what we're about to see. So let's take a look at that clip.
Perfect. I mean, I will say, like, when I watched that clip, I worked so closely with Shane Graham, who plays 16, 17-year-old me, and he nailed me. He got it right. Even my parents, so I'm fostered, adopted. I mean, I've been with my parents now, 38 years. They saw the film and they saw me on the screen. That's how powerful young Shane Graham was in this whole film. And I see myself in that scene every time.
You obviously were raised to hate. Do you remember the feeling when you're in that room and this black man comes in and says he wants to bring you into his home? Do you remember how you felt at that moment?
I mean, yeah, I remember I looked at him and I actually said, I'm 10 years old. And I said, I'm not living with that black bastard. And if you can edit that or don't edit that, I'm not sure. But it's pretty powerful. I'm a 10-year-old kid. Yeah. No one controls me. I'm the boss of me. And I didn't like, different races. I didn't like well-off people, even middle class. You know, it's like, oh, wow, you had a car? You must be rich. Because I didn't have nothing. So I had nothing to live for. So I didn't care. I could look after myself. I was supposed to be in there till I was 16. So I was going to do 9 years. I was prepared for that. But seeing them for the first time, I almost instant attraction to my new foster mum. But when I saw my father, I was very standoffish. And that went on for like 6-8 months living with them. I was like, I just didn't want to be here. I thought I was better than him. 10-year-old white kid. I was so naive and uneducated. I mean, I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't speak properly. I was tongue-tied, so I had too much skin on my tongue. So I would talk like this all the time and nobody could understand me. Like, so, and then if people made fun of me, I would pick up a brick and smash them across the face because I was a small kid. So I was very violent and angry, and I was a walking time bomb. So I thank my parents every time I get a chance for choosing me.
Hey, this is Jason Weber.
And I am Diego Fuller.
I was a foster parent for 10 years and have been a foster care advocate for nearly 20.
And I grew up in the foster care system, and now I minister to young people all across the country by sharing my music and telling my story.
You know, foster parents and foster care advocates like me could do better if we knew better. And we'd know better if we listened to the people who know best. That's those who've experienced foster care firsthand when they were kids.
And that's why we created a limited series podcast to introduce you to amazing men and women who spent time in foster care.
That's right. The Foster Movement podcast will not only help you to get to know 18 of the most inspirational people you'll ever meet, you'll gain wisdom and insight that you just cannot get any other way.
And let me tell you, it's going to challenge you, it's going to inspire you, and I promise you, it's going to make you better.
So subscribe now to the Foster Movement podcast, part of the More Than Enough family of podcasts. They'll help you work with others to provide for children and families before, during, and beyond foster care, until there's more than enough. Hey there, we'll get back to things in just a minute, but before we do, I just wanted to let you know that you can find the show notes for this episode by going to morethanenoughpodcast.org. You can find out more about our guests and what they do. We'll also have some resources there that can help you take your next steps to bring people together in your community to provide more than enough for children and families. Oh, one more thing. At the top of the show notes there are some buttons that allow you to choose where you listen to your podcast, and you can leave a review for the More Than Enough podcast there. And if you leave us a good review, there's a chance we might even do the happy dance. Okay, well, chances are there's going to be no dancing, but you will make us happy. Reviews help us to know what we're getting right and how we can give you more of the same. Again, all of this is at morethanenoughpodcast.org. All right, let's get back to the episode. You know, at the point at which you left that facility with your mom and dad, and though you said it, you know, was several months that you still were really, really struggling. I'm just wondering if there were some small things that they did along the way to really make a big difference for you.
Yeah, I mean, my mom actually gave me her roller skates. Roller skates. I mean, yeah, I'd never been given anything. I'd never had a gift before. So to be given something like that, I was like, well, what's the catch? You know, what do you want from me? And but realizing that I had food on the table every night, that I was given an education. I had my own bedroom, a warm bed, clothes, like little things I could never have imagined or dreamt of. We moved from the east side of Glasgow to the west side. That's like moving from Compton to Beverly Hills. It is like when I saw the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for the first time, I was like in West Philadelphia, born and raised, and then moving to Beverly Hills. That's what it was like for me. I mean, to basically sort of for most American viewers to understand what that's like, it's like going from Crenshaw to Beverly Hills, and I would never have imagined that was ever possible. Never even dream of it. So it took a while to get used to that, but then actually felt good. It felt good to be loved and not beaten up every day, but actually hugged and nurtured.
What are some of the things that your dad did to earn your trust?
It's so crazy. The first one was I kept getting into trouble with the police. I mean, I was fighting every day. Like, so I'm in this new area, and I went in and I pretty much beat up all the bullies. All these bullies were picking on the kids, and I'm still friends with these kids 38 years later. They're like, you were our hero. You came in like a vigilante and just cleaned up. But this is a proper area, this is Beverly Hills. So some of the roughnecks would try and come in and bully, but then this kid came in and took over. But I didn't want to take over in any way. I just wanted to have peace. But I moved into this new area. So this was my territory, and I wanted to protect them. So, but sorry, Jason, I think I went off on a tangent. What was that question?
I just wondered what kinds of things did your dad do to build trust with you?
So that's where I was going with that. So I actually beat up 5 guys in the street, beat them up. Again, I used bricks, I used stones, I used whatever I could. I was taken home by the police. And that day, because I'd been listening to my dad's records. Yes, we had record players. So I'd been listening to the Beatles' Blue album. And he went and bought the Red album. As he come home, the police are bringing me home, and he's got me this gift. So there's me getting into trouble by the police, and then I'm trying to explain why I did this, but it was like, I'm a kid, you won't tell us why you did it. You will do what we tell you to do as parents. But my dad actually saw that I was a protector. And so once the police had gone and I had been sort of verbally disciplined and sent to my room, my dad came in and gave me the album, still as the gift. He didn't say a word. I just knew why he gave me it, because he understood that I'm a protector. I protected my mum when my dad was beating her up, and I'm always a protector.
Wow.
That was a big turning point right there.
I imagine, because he saw past the behavior, right? He saw what was at the heart of it, what was the cause of it. And I think, I'm an adoptive dad and fostered for 10 years. And I think the hardest thing in the world is to sometimes see past our kids' behavior and see why that behavior is there. And it gives us empathy. And that's incredible that he...
Exactly. I mean, you're nail on the head right there. I mean, why are they doing it? And I did a talk in the UK last year for foster and adoption. And I basically, something that got the whole room was... stop telling your kids to grow up. You need to grow down. You've been 10 years old. You've been at that level. They've never been 40. They've never been your age, but you've been there. So what about getting down to their level just for a minute and understanding where they're coming from? And I think in real life, my dad's a biological scientist. So both parents are academics. And for him, I think at that point he got down on my level instead of most of the time was like, grow up and be here. But I think that was the key point, to be relatable, you need to be a child again.
Yeah, he got a lot of things before there were a lot of books written about this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, wow. So what got you into BMX riding?
Yeah, so I've been living with my parents, so it'll be almost about 11 months now. My mum and dad took me to see E.T. So it was early 83. The movie came out in 82. And that's when it was in cinemas for like 8 months or whatever, So we went and saw E.T. and I saw these kids escape and fly off on their bikes. And that's what I saw for myself. I was like, wow, like I was just in awe of this. I wanted to fly out of here. I wanted to basically, be in charge again and have the most amazing life for myself. And so they saw that. That was just so in awe of this film. And my dad took me to a BMX track and back then you'd be able to just borrow a bike and you would ride the track and everything. And for my 13th birthday, I got my first BMX bike. And that was the turning point. I've never been off a BMX since March 10th. My birthday's March 16th, but March 10th, I still remember it was 6 days before because it was a Saturday. We went to the bike shop and got my bike, and I've been on a BMX bike for 7 years now.
Wow. Wow. Well, I remember that 8 months of ET being out very well. That was my favorite movie as a kid. So I'm with you on.
Oh, wow. What did you get from it? What did you get? I mean, again, E.T.'s adopted. I didn't get that then. But he's been fostered pretty much by Elliot. And I got that years later when I was doing another interview. Just like, wow, he's adopting, Elliot is adopting E.T. kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I really don't know what about that movie resonated so much with me as a kid, but I was consumed by it. Halloween, I was in a parade as Elliot and the whole thing. Right. So
Wow.
I love that movie.
I mean, it's incredible. Like when we talk about that, and so the main stuntman with the balaclava that pulls it over his head, well, that's Bob Harrow, and Bob Harrow started freestyle BMX riding. So there was racing BMX, and then freestyle. Well, I'm the global brand manager for Harrow, his company. So all these years later, I'm actually living in Southern California, full circle. And then Hideo, one of our producers, went to Steven Spielberg and told him the movie, told him we're making a movie about this young kid. And he gave us clips of E.T. So E.T. is actually in the film.
Yes, I definitely noticed that right away. I was like, all right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's still a modern film. Like, I mean, kids are still going to cry. I'll still cry when I watch E.T.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What kind of monster are you if you can't cry at ET?
Exactly. It is. So it'd be interesting as well to figure out what it was for you and what drew you into ET. That'd be a good exercise for you.
Yeah. It would be. It would be. But I think for all of us, right? That idea of I think you pointed it out well, like the idea of being in charge of your own destiny, and you're fighting for. They were. He and his friends were fighting for ET, and they were, taking things into their own hands and sticking it to the man a little bit.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's fun.
Oh yeah.
So talk a little bit about you. You mentioned that they were your foster parents at the time, that they proposed to you. When it came to adoption. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so out to dinner. It was actually my younger sister was also fostered at the same time. She was only 5. But yeah, we were out to dinner, and my mum and dad looked at us and basically said, we want you to live with us forever. We want you to be our legal son and daughter. Will you accept us to be your mum and dad? And it's crazy because there's that scene in the film as well. And we're in this restaurant, and Mariana asks John if he would like to be their legal son. And so you can imagine, I mean, I'm behind the camera going, oh my God, this is so real. Like I've got the tears crying. And when Alex, our director, cut, Sasha's looking over and she goes, I think we got it. She didn't even ask the director. She saw my emotion. And she's like, yeah, I think we got it. So, I mean, it's amazing. I was actually there every single day of filming.
Yeah. Remembering back as a kid, how did that change things for you? From going, you're officially in foster care. It's the same people. You wake up the next morning, the day after adoption's finalized. It's the same people that you've been living with for a couple of years. But how does it feel different as a kid?
I definitely, I felt belonged. I felt like, I've been chosen. Because my whole life I kept saying I was abandoned. From the age of 5, I was pretty much living on the streets. I would never go home. And then my mum reported me to the police and everything else. I was always abandoned, rejected. This was the first time I felt wanted and chosen, and I was actually a part of a family. That's what I never envisioned. I never thought that was possible.
So what is it about BMX riding that gives you such life, that has been such a go-to for you, even since you were a teenager?
Yeah. I didn't know at the time. I do now as an adult, but it was my form of meditation. It was living in the now, living in the moment, living in the present. I say this a lot when I do talks, but when I'm riding my bike, I have to be so focused. Otherwise, I'm going to crash. And I say that with schooling. If you're not focusing on what you're doing, you're going to fail. If you're not focusing on your driving, you're going to crash. And so that's what I got out of BMX bike riding, is I'm so focused and in the moment that anything is possible and everything is possible. So that's what the draw was, but I didn't know that at the time. So if it's music, if it's football, baseball, whatever it is you love, you can be who you want to be by living in the moment and being present, by having that feeling. It's remarkable to describe. And that's why I still do it at 48 years old. I still get that feeling today. And even when I crash, I'm like, a bit longer to get up. But I'm still in that present moment. And I feel like, life is just beginning right now.
Yeah, I was actually watching some videos of you online, and one of the things I appreciated, I found one that I think you may have even posted that had you doing some pretty cool stuff, but also had some footage of you crashing, and I actually really appreciated that. Because sometimes you look at the highlight reels, and I love that you highlighted the crashes, and I just wonder, what you learned. What do you learn about life from crashing?
I mean, that's it. You have to crash. You have to crash in life. I look at the lowest point of my life, and that's living on the street, eating the back of a Chinese restaurant, this rice next to a dead dog covered in maggots. You don't know what's rice and what's maggots. So I know I'll never go back to that. And that's what I get. That, oh man, I'm going off on a tangent again. Sorry. What was the question again?
Yeah, let me. I'll just re-ask it. Yeah. So one of the things that struck me as I'm watching these videos of you both doing incredible things, but also crashing is, man, the crashing is such an important part of life, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's it. We all crash in life. And I look at that crash as pick it up and do it and do it and do it until it's done. I don't say if at first you don't succeed, try again. I'm like, if you don't succeed, keep going till you do, because you will succeed. It's all in here. And we talk ourselves out of stuff all the time. It's time you actually talk yourself into things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of crashing, I got to tell you, I was talking to my 11-year-old son about getting the opportunity to talk to you and talking to him about what you do. And I kid you not, within an hour, he was searching on the internet about BMX bikes and things. And so when he gets his first cast, I'll expect you to sign it for him.
Oh yeah, sounds great. Definitely. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like today, feel like a lot of kids are in bubbles. This pandemic that's going on right now with COVID-19, it's actually getting kids out and playing again, because they are stuck in. They don't just want to stay on their games anymore. They want to go out and get a bike or play with the football or wherever. They're eager to get out now, which is great. I mean, our bike sales are up. I mean, we're doing 2.5 times our budget right now. People are just wanting to buy bikes. People want to be out.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so as you look back at all the things that have happened, the crashes and the amazing victories that you've had, both literally and figuratively, and you think about the relationship that started out in that room, and we saw that clip where you were very doubtful about this relationship, and you watched that grow into something beautiful. What are some of the biggest things that you continue to be thankful for as you look back at that entire journey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always thankful for being chosen, and I always acknowledge my mum and dad for that. I love the life that they opened up opportunities for me. I mean, they always say I did it. I had it in me to do it. But given those opportunities, you can do anything. And I just love the life that they gave me. And I love the fact that I can inspire others that, so much has happened to us. And we can do anything. You got to leave that past in the past. It takes a long time. It took me into my 40s to leave all that in the past of what happened to me. But realizing that my past doesn't dictate my future, that I do, that I can create this, that, I was told I wouldn't get into America. I was told I couldn't work and be the global brand manager for this company, but no one had control of me but me. And so I put myself on the line and said, no, I can get to America. I can be the global brand manager of this company. And the more you believe in yourself, the more you will succeed.
Well, thanks so much, John. And the name of the movie is The Ride. This is John Buultjens, and we're so grateful that you've spent the time with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And look forward to signing that cast when he breaks his arm.
Awesome. Man, what a cool guy and an incredible story. Also, it makes me want to go watch E.T. again. And speaking of movies, if you want to get more into John's story, be sure to check out the movie The Ride. You can find it on Amazon. Well, as we wind down, I'd like to thank our sound engineer, Daniel Davidson, who shared that he and his wife are avid mountain bikers, and he has broken, count them, 3 helmets in his lifetime. Daniel, you're a wild man. Holy cow. And I want to thank our producer, Amanda Baird, who was once a teacher, and she told me that she once taught 6 kindergartners how to ride bikes without training wheels in one day. That's super impressive and sounds kind of stressful. Thanks again to John Buultjens for taking this time. We're always so grateful when former foster youth share their stories with us, because when we listen to the people who know best, people who've experienced foster care firsthand when they were kids, we gain wisdom we just can't get any other way. So thank you, John. And thanks to all of you who are working so diligently where you live to help children and families before, during, and beyond foster care until there's more than enough.
This has been the More Than Enough podcast. Join us next time as we introduce you to more of our friends who are passionate about helping you and your friends work together to provide more than enough for children and families before, during, and beyond foster care where you live. Explore show notes and learn more at morethanenoughpodcast.org.